Welcome to Square Foot Gardening. In this 30-minute video, you're going to learn all the basics of square foot gardening from the originator of the method, Mel Bartholomew. You'll see how this truly simple and easy new method can produce so much with so little effort and work. Mel will take you through a brief introductory description, then show you where to locate your garden. Next, they'll cover all the basic concepts, including how to build, plant, and care for these unique gardens. Finally, they'll wrap it up with information about some of the very worthwhile projects around the world. So, let's join them now and learn why the Square Foot Gardening book is the largest selling garden book in America.
It is my very great privilege to introduce Mel Bartholomew, who is the originator and author of Square Foot Gardening. Mel, would you like to tell us one of our most frequently asked questions? Why did you invent square foot gardening?
I got all my questions together and I went all over the country and I found all the gardening experts and I asked them, why do we rototill up our garden and then pack it all down? Why do we have rows 3 feet apart when the plants are only 6 inches apart in the row? And why do we plant a whole packet of seeds and then thin most of them away? And you know what answer I got? Everyone had the same answer no matter where I went.
Because that's the way we've
always done it. That was the only answer I could get. And right then and there I said, I'm going to invent a new way to garden. What is square foot gardening?
It is a uniquely simplified system of gardening which eliminates 80% of the space, the work, the weeds, the watering, and the waste, and gives you 100% of the harvest and the joy of gardening, because gardening is a joyful thing.
Now 80%, keep that in mind, because when you reduce something by 80%, it makes a huge difference. Between 20 and 80 and 100, we're talking about 5 times as much. It takes 5 times as much area in a conventional single row garden to grow the same thing that we can in just that 20%. So you'll see as we go through the explanation of square foot gardening and all the basics, how easy it is to garden. And the main reason is because we're condensing everything down to a very small space. We don't crowd our plants, but we don't waste any space. And conventional gardening is wasted space.
Mm-hmm. And another wonderful thing about square foot gardening is that it is totally earth friendly. And what better thing can we teach our young people and ourselves than to remember the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Be good to the earth. The better we are to the earth, the better it's going to be to us.
Susie likes to call it tithing back to the earth, and we're going to get into compost too, and you're going to learn about composting. We do not use fertilizers. We do not use insecticides. We do not use any sprays. We're not organic nuts, but we are natural. We garden naturally, and we find that there are so many nutrients in a good compost that you don't need any fertilizer. Those big carrots are proof.
That's absolutely true. The more you put into your compost, the more you're putting into the soil,
that's right,
the more return you will get.
That's right, and we're going to show you how to make your own soil too.
Okay. Square foot gardening is more than just a gardening method. It is a philosophy. It is a way of life. It is, we feel, a very good way of life, and one that we truly enjoy sharing with everyone.
Well, that's true, because if you can break life down as your garden into individual square feet, then you have very little to take care of, and it's very easy. And you think, I can do that today. And once you do 1 little square foot, suddenly you're ready to do 2 square feet, and then all the surrounding ones. And before you know it, you've done your whole garden, whether it be weeding or watering or taking care of it. And I've seen several articles that indicated that square foot gardening would be a good philosophy of life. If you could break your life down into individual little compartments and then solve those little things, you'd have a much better, happier, peaceful life.
He wrote this book 20 years ago. It has been and still is the largest selling garden book in the country, and for a very good reason. It has all the answers, very simply, to everybody's questions. Too many people approach gardening with all the problems. Let's study all the diseases and all the terrible things. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about the joy of gardening. We want success, so we're talking about how simple it is. What does a plant need? And how you can provide that the easiest way possible. And we know it works.
These are the only tools you need for square foot gardening. It is so simple and easy, and there's no hard work. You start out with a scissors and a pencil and a trowel, and that's all there is to it.
Hand trowel.
There is no heavy digging to square foot gardening. There's no hard work. There's no weeds either.
Well, that's one of the big advantages.
Okay.
Some of the other advantages, it is a new method easy to understand. It really is. It's a user-friendly gardening method.
Well, now, beginners. How many of you are beginners here? Fairly new to gardening. Well, goodness, that's great, because you're going to learn the whole system in about 2 hours.
Okay, now how many of you are kind of expert gardeners? It's going to take you a couple of weeks, because you've got a whole lot of stuff in your head that you've got to get rid of. Just
That's
keep it
the
simple.
problem with experts at gardening, experts at anything. They have a certain way, they know how to do it, they're successful, and if they're shown a new simple way, the experts keep saying, it can't be that easy. It's something wrong here. It just can't be that easy.
Well, this really is an easy method. As I say, it's easy to learn, easy to understand, easy to protect.
Yes, absolutely. Because you've reduced everything down to 20%, it's very easy to protect it. Now, what would you protect your garden from?
Well, critters.
Critters
or
for
other
one.
things that want to
Yep.
eat what you're growing.
How about weather?
It's easy to build the protection out of more of this recycled material.
Very
that we
simple
find,
things.
reusing
Yep,
things.
we'll get into that more.
Okay, we've already mentioned earth-friendly. This whole system is an earth-friendly system. We encourage reducing, reusing, and recycling.
And we use all the things that are
Mm-hmm.
friendly to the earth in not only the materials, but the soil.
Mm-hmm.
We get into composting, very heavy.
And this garden, you also want to locate it very close to your house.
We're going to cover location.
Yes, but it's one of the advantages. You can
Yes.
put it close to
Yep.
your house because it's compact. It'll fit.
Remember, a traditional single-row garden, because it's so large, has to be located where? Way out back.
back.
And how often are you going to visit it? And by summertime, it's so filled with weeds, you don't want to visit it. So it just grows and the weeds get bigger and bigger. And you say, well, I'll wait till next year, I'll try again. But with square foot gardening, it's right near your house. You can tend it, you'll take care of it, and it'll be very attractive for you.
Well, let's go on and talk about the location a little bit more. What are
Okay.
the other factors in the location of a garden?
All right.
Remember, everything needs light. Plants do need light to grow,
6 to 8 hours a day.
ideally.
The other thing outdoors, you don't want it near trees. And there's a couple of reasons.
Well, one is the shade. That's the obvious
Yep.
one. But the other is,
The roots.
yeah,
And you don't want to be too close to those trees. So you want to be out from underneath the branches. You look up, and if you can see the tree, you're too close to it.
because of the feeding roots. They
Those
will come
roots
up
will
and find
come
your
right
garden.
into your real
Okay?
good soil.
Now that one, the no puddles, that means good drainage. A garden does need good drainage.
Yep.
That's pretty easy to find.
But you see, with the square foot system, it's going to be very easy because we're going to build up from the soil. You'll see that in just a minute. And the last is make sure it's close to your house. You'll enjoy it more, you'll harvest more, you'll have a better garden that way.
And remember, this is fun. You want to make it fun. Whatever you can enjoy, keep on enjoying.
The other thing is, and you're talking about protection, certainly if you're going to grow out of season, early in the spring, late in the fall, it's much easier to protect your garden when it's close to your house.
Yes.
All right, what's next?
Okay, I think we're going to start with the 10
Okay.
basics, the very basic things. There are 10 basic concepts in square foot gardening. Once you have an idea about those, you're ready to go. The first one is
Think in squares,
squares.
not in rows. Forget all about rows. Think in squares. Now we have several basic sizes for square foot gardening. Traditionally 4 by 4, and that's the shape and size of this frame right here.
How did you come up with 4 by 4?
Well, first of all, I got a yardstick and a ruler, and I went around and I measured everyone's reach. I got little old ladies about this big, and I said, come on, put your arm out there. And then I got big husky guys, and I found out everyone could reach in about 24 inches, 2 feet. Now, if you could reach in 2 feet and you walk all the way around your garden, you have a 4 by 4. And the reason you walk around your garden and reach in is so you don't walk on your growing soil.
Never walk or step
it's
on your
that
growing
simple.
soil. Remember, we don't rototiller. We don't plow it up. We keep it soft, keep it loose.
We'll get into soil in just a minute. The next size down for school children is 3 by 3. And if you have a family garden, this is a perfect size for children. For those of you that want a portable garden, you can put a plywood bottom on this, 2 by 2, and you can pick it up and carry it about.
We want all children to realize that gardening is a very essential part of life and to have a good positive feeling about it.
Absolutely, instead of just all that drudgery
Right.
of weeding.
Okay, next concept, Mel.
Okay.
Boxes.
The next is build your boxes. Now, we're going to build up from your existing soil. We're not going to use your existing soil. We don't care what your existing soil is. No matter where I go in the country, in fact, in the world, the first thing I hear is, we've got the worst
soil right here.
And I remember from my mother's garden, we had to continually add things to the garden, manure and peat moss and that. And I found out after I took a little survey around the country, and I found out everyone that really gardens keeps adding things, mixing it in every year. And it takes about 7 years to get a perfect garden soil. And then you know what happens?
You move.
Yeah, you move. And you know who buys your house? A non-gardener. Why waste those 7 years and all that hard work? Why can't we start with a perfect garden soil to start with?
But before we get to the soil, we have to go back to the boxes.
Okay.
Because we're going to put this soil in something. So let's get the
All
container
right.
ready first.
Now, what do you build your boxes out of? This is 1x6 lumber. And incidentally, 6 inches is all the depth you need with this perfect soil that we're going to have. You can use 2x6 lumber, or you could take 2x4s and double stack them.
But basically, what is the best wood?
The best kind of wood is free wood. And
Whatever you can find.
we do not use treated wood. I'm not convinced yet that the treatment that they use in wood won't harm the vegetables that you're growing.
It might make the wood last longer, but I'm not sure it makes us last longer.
Right, exactly. So people say, well, won't that rot away? And I said, well, yeah, maybe in 5 or 6 years it will. So then we have to go get some more free wood.
No problem. And this rotting wood will go into compost. So everything is a constant cycle. Okay, so we're going to build the boxes. And very simple, drill some holes, put some screws.
Yep. I use deck screws in here, put 3 in each, and lay your boxes down. Now, first you've decided where your garden's going to go. You've decided what sizes you want. And incidentally, a 4x4 will feed one person a salad every single day during the growing season.
Besides a salad, some cooking vegetables and a flower or two.
Okay.
Which can be edible or just for the joy.
So if you have a family of 4, you need 4 this size. The children can have smaller size. And this really is an excellent way to teach the children how to garden at home. It's a real family project.
Okay, now how are we going to set these boxes out?
Well, we're
We need
going
a
to lay them
little
out in the
space.
ground, and then we're going to walk around them. Now, how much room do you need to walk? And one lady tonight mentioned on the cover of the book, said, that looks awfully narrow. And Susie likes to tell that story,
That
too.
was part of his efficiency expert
Yeah.
time. And not only that, he got this lumber
They
to
were
put
1
his
by
walkways,
12s.
and they were free.
They were free, so I couldn't waste them. But I could get just enough to put in there. I couldn't double them up. But 12 inches between boxes is not enough. You'll stumble and you'll fall and you'll go into your garden.
Yeah, it's a little too efficient.
2 feet is much better. 3 feet is the perfect distance.
So you can comfortably walk through and maneuver and even kneel down or crouch
And
down.
you get your
and tend
wheelbarrow
garden.
in and anything else.
Okay.
So we're going to put the boxes down on the ground. We're not going to change the existing soil. We're just going to lay them on top. If you have grass there, you can either take the grass out, put it in your compost pile upside down, or you can just cover that grass with a lot of layers of wet newspaper.
And that'll keep the grass from growing
or
up
cardboard.
through.
And then on top of that, we're going to mix in our soil.
The famous soil mix. Now, we talk about a soil mix called Mel's Mix, which is 1/3 compost, 1/3 peat moss, and 1/3 vermiculite.
If you're going to buy vermiculite, get the large bags, 4 cubic feet, and make sure you get the coarse grade. It comes fine, medium, and coarse. Get the coarse grade. Equal parts of that, and you'll have the perfect soil.
It's a wonderful thing to start with. Now, the compost is the nutrient in this, and this is why we want you to start making compost, because that is your constant replenishing of this soil.
Right. We do not add fertilizer to our growing soil. In square foot gardening, we do not use fertilizer, especially
it's a
a
natural
chemical.
method.
And the compost, in most soils around the country, there's about 3 to 6% organic material in the natural soil. Well, if you remember your math, we've got 1/3 here. We've got 33 1/3% organic matter in our soil.
And that's just for starters, because we continually add compost, which we'll tell you about in a minute.
So we're going to start with this perfect soil mix. It's easy to figure out. Have the kids do a little bit of math. 4 times 4, 6 inches deep. They can get volume. You know how many cubic feet of your soil mix you need.
Okay?
What's next?
And what we're going to put on top of this, after we build our box and fill it full of soil, we're going to put a grid on.
Now, a grid's very important. We can make it out of recycled plastic. We've even used Venetian blinds. This is what we use in the school program. Or you can use wood slats. You can paint them any color you want. And we always drill a little hole and put a screw or a bolt right in the intersection. I also like to screw them right to the frame.
It's very important that the grid be attached and stay on your garden.
What
now,
are some of the reasons?
Why the grid?
Yeah, why the
a
grid? I was going to ask you.
Oh, you were, huh? Well, okay, for one thing, it makes your garden unique. It
That's
does
true.
look different.
When people look over the fence at your garden, they're going to say, hey, that looks different. And they'll come and talk to you all about it.
But the most important reason is you have 16 square feet here. With this grid, you can see you're going to plant 16 different crops in this very intense planting method.
Right.
Without the grid, your mind does not allow you to utilize the space to a maximum.
If you saw this without a grid, you'd just think, well, pretty soon you'd start planting little rows here and there, or you'd put in little groups of plants, and you defeat the whole purpose. The other reason is we're only going to plant one certain crop here and a different crop here and a different crop here. We're going to go through that with you tonight. But when that one crop is finished, we're going to replant that 1 square foot with something different. And you can't do that in any other garden system. This is the only garden system in existence where you can replace 1 square foot at a time.
Now let's start planting this.
Okay.
Then. Let's see, for example, what
Well,
would we put
let's
in
start
and how
out-
would we figure it out?
The number of plants that fit in a square foot. First of all, extra large plants are 1 per square foot.
That would be a large plant like a cabbage or a pepper plant or a tomato plant or broccoli.
Okay, everyone wants to know, but how do you grow tomatoes? How do you grow squash? And how do you grow those things that are a vine? We grow them vertically. And there's a couple of chapters in the book that show you how to grow vertically. It's a very simple system. It grows up. Just pretend you're in the city, and instead of sprawling your house out, you put your apartment straight up, and that's what we do in the garden.
Remember, the plant root only needs the space in that 1 square foot.
Right, but the rest of the plant can grow up. And you'll see we had a couple tomatoes this summer growing 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they really produced because they're up and they don't get ground rot and all the other sort of things. The next is 4 per square feet.
Okay, and that would be a large plant like leaf lettuce, for example. And many of the flowers go that 4 per square feet. Now, the way we get this, the 1 per square foot, are the plants that need to be 12 inches apart. That allows 12 inches, the space for that plant. The 4 per square foot are the plants that need to be, quote, thinned to 6 inches apart.
6 inches apart. And once you have your grid on, this is another reason for the grid, is you don't need any arithmetic, you don't need a calculator or anything. All you have to do is take your finger and in the soil go zip, zap, and you've got the perfect spacing. And the nice thing about this is if you make a crooked line here, you look around and if your neighbor's not watching, you just rub it out and you can start all over again, go zip, zap.
So this is part of that gardening practicing you get to do. Before you actually plant, you can play around with the drawing the zip-zap.
Next spacing are medium-sized plants, and that's 9 per square foot.
That would be like bush beans or peas or beets or turnips.
Now to get that spacing, you take 2 fingers like this, put them apart, and you go zip, zap, and there's 9 perfect spaces.
And they're the plants that would be 4 inches apart, and they all have 4 inches in every direction.
It's that easy. Now the fun one are the 16 per square foot.
This makes the most noise.
And what goes in here?
Carrots, radishes,
Okay.
onions.
Okay. And all you do is go zip, zap like that, and then you take 2 fingers, put them apart like that, and you go bing, 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 bing. And when you learn just the right spacing, it's kind of like riding a bicycle. No matter where you move in the country, you'll always be able to do bing, 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 and you'll get it just right. But these two, notice, are the same spacing that these two are, which are the same spacing that these two are. All these plants are perfectly spaced. Now, they're not crowded. This is the same distance apart that the seed packets say thin to. But we don't fool around with that thinning business.
Remember, there isn't that 3 feet of wasted space that we're growing nothing but weeds and wasting space. And this truly works. We have been harvesting in a square with 16 carrots. We have pulled out carrots that are 5 inches long and about 2 3/4 inches in diameter. The carrots are just touching each other. Pounds and pounds of carrots from 1 square foot. It's really exciting.
And it is exciting, you know, especially for kids our age, to pull a carrot out of the ground because you don't know what it's going to be like. And you look at it and say, wow, look at that. And the reason they can grow that big is, remember, our soil is so loose and friable. And it stays that way because you don't walk on the soil. Now, let's plant a few more things. Let's put in some lettuce. And next we'll put in some radishes. I'm going to show you, and remember, 16, zip, zap, bing, 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 you have your radishes. You pour the seeds out in the palm of your hand. You take a pinch of seeds and put in each hole. That's all there is to it.
This is part of the conserving seeds. We don't waste. Remember that package of seeds that has 800 or 1,000 lettuce seeds? You use just what you need for that time you're planting.
And then we're going to save our seeds, and there's a section of the book that tells you how to save your seeds.
Very easy.
Guess what? They'll be good next year.
They'll
And
be
the
good
year
for
after.
years and years
and
and
years.
years.
Some of them will be good up to 10 years. So it's an easy way to save your seeds and be ready for any kind of a situation.
You keep them cool and dry.
Well, we planted some lettuce here and some radishes, and we have some spinach there. We'll put in maybe a head of cabbage.
Okay.
If you want 2 heads of cabbage, put in 2.
Now notice we put different things, each square something different. Partly because that looks nice. These are kind of like creating a quilt. But also, this is part of our natural insect protection. Remember, we said flowers, and we will put a square of marigolds somewhere, for example,
Right.
or maybe nasturtiums.
I'm going to put some onions here.
Onions are good, too. These plants have a natural insect repellent characteristic. So if you have a few of these around, they will protect all of the squares within their vicinity.
Here's another variety of lettuce, and Susie's going to show you how we harvest. We don't harvest the usual way. That's a big difference, too. And here's your carrots.
Okay.
Your giant carrots.
Yep.
Now, carrots come in all lengths and all sizes. You can get ball carrots. You can get little tiny ones. You can get big fat ones. You can get big, long, skinny ones. It all depends how good your soil is, how deep it is. But we're going to stay with 6 inches of soil because that's all you really need. Another variety of lettuce down here, you can have all different colors of lettuce and leaf patterns, and it really makes it interesting.
The more variety, the better. It's also important to learn to try something new. Try to eat something different. Encourage your family to try something different.
How about some flowers in that corner?
Flowers. These are not only beautiful, and we need beauty in our lives too, but they do have other properties.
Well, aren't flowers edible?
Well, yes, many of them are.
And
yes.
when you're doing
yes.
your salad, you can put flowers
yes.
right in your
yes,
salad.
Lots of them are.
But also,
Nasturtiums
if when you're harvesting and you're going in and sitting your table, why not take some flowers in too and put on the table? Add some beauty to your life, and add some beauty to your garden. Now, people keep asking us, why do you add flowers to all the vegetables? And we ask, and everyone has all kinds of reasons, like it attracts insects,
good for
pollination,
pest control.
and it's good for pest control, and there's a lot of different reasons, but there's one main one that we add flowers to a square-foot garden. It's because...
they're pretty.
That's right.
And we really want to remind you that gardening is a joyous event. And if we approach it now with pleasure and joy, it will always be a joy.
Now,
no matter
here's
what the circumstances.
Here's the beauty of square-foot gardening. The radishes are going to be finished in 4 weeks. 4 weeks you'll harvest 16 radishes. And remember, this controls your urge to overplant. Because if you had that string there in that long 20-foot row, you would plant that whole packet of radish seeds. Now, I think 16 radishes is close to heartburn in itself. So how many would you want? Could you use 100 of them all at once? Too many. So when you plant 1 square foot of whatever it is, whether it be a cabbage or radishes, that says to you, isn't that enough? Do you want more? If the answer is yes, then you plant another square foot. The nice thing is, if you wanted more radishes, you could wait a week and then plant another square foot down in that
Over
corner.
here, or in another box over here.
Yes.
Just spread them around.
Now, we're through harvesting 4 weeks. This lettuce is still growing. This lettuce is still growing, but the radishes are ready to come out. So we take them out. The tops go into the
compost.
And
everything gets returned to the compost.
From the bottom of the compost pile, we take a trowel full. That's why we need a trowel.
One of our little diggers.
And we add it to this square, and we mix it in, smooth it over, and we're just getting ready to replant. We look in the book, and that was spring, and that might be summer now. We think it's time to put in beans. So we'll put in some bush beans.
Now, another reason for putting in beans, remember, we took out radishes. They're a root crop. We're going to add a fruiting crop.
Right. And
when
these are finished at the end of summer, we'll come in and put something else in, and at that time, we'll probably put in some spinach.
Spinach, which is a leaf crop. So we've done total crop rotation in that 1 square.
And we've also done
good way of
we've also done soil improvement.
Yes.
So all these things were done automatically. You don't have to think about them. You don't have to read a book. You don't have to keep any records. You just automatically keep changing your crop.
And it was very easy because the soil is light and easy to work. You're never going to have to do any hard work. The hardest thing is going to be building your box. Okay, now we have to water this garden. This is another thing that's unique with square foot gardening. Our watering system, we water by hand. A lot of people say, well, that's way too labor intensive. I'll just not have time to do all that. Actually, Mel efficiently has analyzed it takes less time to tend a square foot garden watering by hand and doing all the, quote, work, because it's not work in the square foot garden. It takes less time to tend this garden than a traditional garden.
First of all, we start with a bucket of water that gets warmed in the sun, and the plants will respond much better with warmed water. Then we take a cup, and that bucket's always there, always filled with water. You may need a couple of them. And you go into your plants, and you water, and you reach underneath the plant. You just pull the leaves back a little bit and water there. You'll see in the book there's a couple diagrams that when you plant the plants, you put them in a little saucer-shaped depression, and the water goes right down to the root system. So we're not watering the leaves. First of all, that's conservation of water, but also it's better for the plants instead of overhead watering.
It's true, because a wet leaf encourages disease. Now, you mentioned a very important point. It's conservation of water. When water is at a premium, this gardening system uses less water than any other system you could imagine, because you're only giving water to the plants that need it when they need it.
So people say, even now in the fall or early spring or winter, when should I start my garden? Well, if you're doing square foot gardening, you can start any time of the year. If it's the middle of the summer, convert your old-fashioned single-row garden to a couple of squares just to get started. If it's the fall, start building your boxes, getting your compost going. It's the middle of winter, you should still be composting. Build your boxes, look in your yard, have everything ready. So there's no season when you can't really start a square foot garden, but most of important, there's no time when you shouldn't be starting your composting.
Right. Now, we mentioned harvesting. We have a little different harvesting philosophy. Traditionally, you wait until a head of lettuce, for example, is ready, and then you take that into the kitchen.
The whole head could take it to the state fair.
But we do it differently. We start as soon as a few little leaves. I would go and I'd take a few outer leaves from each of the lettuce plants. A few from here, a few from there, a few spinaches.
And you take your salad bowl right to the garden, too.
Remember, your garden is very close to your kitchen, probably.
You might pull
one small carrot,
wash it off in this bucket, and that's ready to go in.
Square foot gardening is a philosophy. It is not just a method, but it is more than that. It is a philosophy. And you can apply the concept of think in squares. Let's just approach everything a square at a time. If you try to think of everything and try to solve all the problems at once, it becomes kind of overwhelming, but do a square at a time.
I guess that's why people make lists of things to do today. But if you could think on your list, each one's a square foot, and if you could just finish that and clean it up, I like to think that you can come out in your Sunday best clothes and tend your garden.
Yes,
and all you do is weed. Now, we said there's no weeds. Well, occasionally there's a little weed coming. And so you get your weeding tools, which are these two fingers. Unless, of course, you're left-handed, then it's these two. And you just pull a couple of those little weeds out.
And believe me, it's easy. That soil or that compost is so light. It is just easy, easy, easy.
And once you get that watered and a few plants trimmed up a little bit, you look at that and say, well, that took about 30 seconds. I think I'll do this square. And pretty soon, in a couple of minutes, you've done the whole thing. And in 5 minutes, you can do a 4x4 very easily. Now, if you have a perfect-looking garden with perfect soil, and it's close to the house, and you're going to tend it, you're going to be a perfect gardener. You're going to harvest everything. You're going to eat better. You have better nutrition. You're going to be happier. You're going to get your whole family involved. And it's really that simple and easy.
And it truly is. This gardening method works for everyone. Whatever your physical limitations or other kinds of limitations of space, you can do it. And this is one of the most frequent comments we hear when people see the demonstration gardens we do and just look around and say, I can do that.
That's
and
true.
Yes, you can all do it. It's easy.
Now, this has worked all over the country and all over the world. We have projects all over the world, in India and Haiti and Bermuda, and these projects have done a wonder because they're teaching people how to raise their own food when they really need something like that. Most of us just grow as a hobby and because it's fun and we want to be close to nature. But this has had a huge impact all around the world. One thing is, when you send this overseas, all you have to send is a book or a knowledge, or send somebody with it in their mind. We don't need tractors, we don't need fertilizer, we don't need gasoline, we don't need pumps or pipes or anything like that. Because all those systems that our government keeps sending all overseas, eventually something doesn't work. And then what happens? The whole thing shuts down.
Everything breaks down.
If you can be an ambassador for Square Foot Gardening, take gardening first in your family, then to your neighborhood, and then think of how you could take Square Foot Gardening somewhere else to help someone else. We'd sure appreciate it. And it's going to make the world a much better place.
Well, there it is, the simplest, easiest method you could imagine, yet it produces twice as much in half the space, and with no work and no weeds. Just think of the beauty and the abundant harvest you can enjoy in your own yard, and anyone can do it anywhere. So start your own Square Foot garden now. You'll be glad you did. We have more gardens to share in a moment, but first, here's how you can order a copy of the book or this video. Square Foot Gardening is the best-selling garden book ever. 347 pages filled with charts, photos, and illustrations. This book proves that anyone, anywhere, can have a garden to be proud of. Introducing Square Foot Gardening is an easy and fun way to learn the basics. It's also an enjoyable way to share this new way to garden with anyone you know. For credit card orders only, call toll-free 877-828-1188. When you order from the Square Foot Gardening Foundation, all profits go to support our educational programs around the world. We'll return shortly to the video for a color-filled tour of our Square Foot demonstration gardens at Thanksgiving Point near Salt Lake City, Utah.